Hello, welcome back to Vintage Splendor. Today we are taking a tour of my home. If this is your first time in our home, it is a 1959 mid-century modern ranch, and we bought it from the original owners about 11 years ago. And when we bought it, it was in original condition, and in its heyday in the 60s, it was like the epitome of a party home. The man who built this house was a bachelor, and he wanted to build this beautiful home where he could host parties, and it was a really beautiful layout, and all of the original finishes were really great. But unfortunately, when we bought it, the last 15 years, there was so much deferred maintenance, so we had a lot of work cut out for us. So over the last decade, my husband Alan and I have spent a lot of time and a lot of creative juice to bring back the original splendor of our home, and I'm really excited to share it with you today. I would describe my home aesthetic much like I describe my fashion, and it is vintage maximalist. There is a little hint of minimalism that happens in our house because of my husband. I would say he's definitely more of the minimalist, but he loves color and he loves texture, and that's why every space in our house has its own personality, and I pull together a lot of different colors, prints, patterns, and just have fun with a lot of different types of aesthetics and styles. Something you'll notice, our house does not, skew traditional mid-century modern or Scandi or even bohemian. It just really doesn't have an aesthetic. It's definitely something that is true to my style and my husband's style. Something that is really important to me and Alan is designing a home that is beautiful but functional and practical. And by that I mean we have 2 children. I think it's important for our kids to be incorporated into the design of the house, but as you'll see, we have a lot of glass, we have a lot of sharp edges, and we want our kids to grow up in a really beautiful house, but for their personalities to shine through. So even though I have a lot of expensive, one-of-a-kind pieces, I think our approach is we don't live in a museum. It's okay to pick up the artwork or some of these finds and just live. And we love to host parties, so when we found out that this house was designed by a bachelor who loved to have parties, we were like, this is the perfect house for us. It has a very open floor plan, so from the living room I can see into the dining room, into the kitchen, into our patio and our outdoor space. It's just like one big flow that's happening. We love to entertain a lot, and whether it's kid parties or adult parties. So I would say 90% of the furniture and decor in our home is vintage or secondhand. A lot like my wardrobe, I really want a unique space that really represents our aesthetic and how we like to live. So say almost everything has come from the flea market, thrift stores, estate sales, Facebook Marketplace. And the idea that I have is I want our house to feel like a really collected home. So it's not more about it needs to be design focused and needs to have a specific aesthetic. It's more when somebody walks into our house, I want them to know, okay, Annette really thought out every single detail in the house, and it looks like they had a really great life. It looks like they did a lot of cool things, and she decided to collect. Kind of like when you go to somebody's house and you can tell that they've traveled the world. I want people to have that feeling, whether they're looking at the art or some of the tchotchkes I've picked up from the flea market or from some of our travels. Let's go to the dining room. The dining room is probably the one space that I would say is very minimalist, because compared to the rest of the house, there isn't as much color happening. but I absolutely fell in love with the dining chairs and I started designing around them. These are like really great 80s chairs, and then the end chairs are from the 60s. My recommendation for getting a really collected and just thought out home design, decor, aesthetic, whatever you want to call it, is to have fun with different decades. As I mentioned, our house was built in 1959, and although we could have gone into this like very Scandi modern aesthetic, that's not very much our vibe. And I think to make a house feel like a home, it needs to represent you. So you'll see pieces in our house that are from the early 1900s all the way through the 1980s, and I like to mix them all together, and that's what gives it that like spice and gives it a little bit of life that I like to say. I would say a couple of the iconic pieces in our dining room, besides Alan's telescope, which he likes to talk about anytime we have guests, is the chandelier. It's one of the newer pieces in our house. It is Jonathan Adler, and we wanted a piece that was a functional light source, but also was a sculptural piece. I wanted something that was like very massive, that was visually really interesting, but of course like provides light at night. And this was a piece that I loved and I really wanted it, and I waited 2 years to get it, and I think it's so worth it. While I do a lot of shopping in Los Angeles, one of the places I turn to for some of the bigger, rarer pieces like the dining room chairs, our Burlwood credenza, is Florida. So you're like, Florida? Well, I have a couple of vendors that I love to shop from. I found them through Etsy, and even with the cross-country shipping, which sometimes can be $400, it is still less than half the price of buying some of these pieces in Los Angeles. So I really trust one of these vendors, Angel. I've bought a lot of pieces from her, and I know that I'm getting a great deal. So I would recommend, if you are living somewhere where things tend to be a little bit more expensive, get creative and start shopping outside of your area, and like take into consideration the shipping or the delivery fee. But I guarantee if you are shopping in a lot of different parts of the country, it's going to save you a lot of money. One of my favorite things to collect is artwork. So in a previous life, I was a gallery director, and I just think art is such a great way to add color and personality to your home. And again, my art comes from all over. We've collected pieces from travels, either art shows, or I love to find them at the flea market. I actually have a couple of vendors I visit because they represent different artists. So you'll see a couple of pieces that I found at the flea market because the estate was looking to sell off the art, and I got really great deals. So might need to do a YouTube video on this. Anytime I'm buying art, I always look to make sure that it is signed, and then I can reference it. Anytime artwork is signed, it adds value to the piece. I did mention that I also shop with vendors that will represent artists, and that's how I know that the estate of the artist will lend value to the pieces. But if you are a parent, I'm sure you come home with a ton of art, and kind of my belief is to display some of that artwork. So we have one of Harley's first pieces that she ever painted on our wall. People always ask us about it, and it's Harley's. We also have a bulletin board that is in the space between the kitchen and the dining room, and that's where a lot of the artwork that comes home from school is displayed. It's kind of like our family center. And again, I can't reiterate this enough. Like, you don't have to give up your personal style when you become a parent. I know so many people who say, I stopped having a coffee table because I have kids. I am a firm believer that your kids can adapt to any environment, but we still love to celebrate our children and the things that they bring home from school. So we have designated areas where we proudly display their artwork, and they kind of love seeing their art hang with other notable artists. One of my my favorite projects we worked on in our house is to update our kitchen. We wanted to retain the original mid-century modern charm, but make it more functional and practical for everyday living for a family. And one of the things that we did was actually remove the wall that was blocking the stove area. This way I can actually look out into the dining room and into our patio and our deck area. When I said this house was designed for entertaining, I really wanted to be able to like hang out with people in the kitchen, in the dining room, and still keep an eye on the kids when they're playing outside on the deck and on the patio. One of my favorite features of our house is the original front door, which is a multicolored glass and it's encased in this aluminum steel. I have never seen an architectural detail like this in homes, and I love to research mid-century modern homes that were built in this area. I love being able to just slide this door open when I greet guests into our house. So I know gallery walls get a very bad rep in a lot of art and design circles, but I am a firm believer that it is an important part of a house, and it's a way to display either family pictures or your interests. And ours exists right where our office and library area is, and what we've done is it's a mix of our travel photos as a family and as a couple when Alan and I used to travel together, plus we collect a lot of cool vintage maps from all of the destinations. My husband is very into urban design and vintage maps, and so he loves to collect them everywhere we travel, and that is what's displayed on our wall. And we also mix in a little bit of artwork from the different places we've traveled. Since the last time I did a tour, we repainted our bedroom, and I absolutely love the color. A lot of people ask me, oh, like, did you have to convince your husband? No, he actually chose this color, which is called pinky beige. We wanted something that was a little bit brighter. As much as I loved the moody green, it was really speaking to my soul. I just wanted something that was a little bit of a refresh, and I kept everything else in our room pretty much the same. And as I mentioned, like, I like to mix pieces from different decades to get a really, really fun mix and just feel in a space. So our room has like a modern bed, and the antique bench is from the late 1800s. I sourced it from my friend who has a great vintage shop in Hudson Valley, and some of the other details are from like the 1920s. My vanities in 1960s, like secretary desk, just super cool. So I just want to reiterate, like, just have fun with a lot of the pieces that you are sourcing in your home, because that's what's going to reflect your personal style, and it's going to make you really happy to come to a space. And that's always been my approach, is to keep changing up pieces, whether it's moving around artwork. These pieces that are over the bed were previously downstairs, so it's not even about buying new, it's about just like moving things around so that they feel fresh. And if you love it, you'll just get excited looking at it in a whole new space. So our upstairs project was something we finished right before everything shut down in March 2020. We actually like finished, and a week later everything was shut down. So what we did is we converted the upstairs, which was 600 square feet of just open space, into an office nook, our primary bedroom, a walk-in closet, as well as the bathroom. And as much fun as I had decorating the bedroom, I absolutely love our bathroom. I wanted a soaking tub. Like, one of my favorite things to do is to just hang out in the bathtub, and it's actually something my husband and I love to do. We just kind of unwind. He hangs out in the bathroom, we chit chat, we have wine, I'm taking a bath, he's just hanging out. But it was really about designing a space that we would utilize in our own very personal way. And something that really made me excited about the bathroom design process was playing with tile because, again, tiles give you so many opportunities to have fun with color, with texture, as well as with prints. So we did this really great brick on the wall, a pattern tile on the floor, and then I have a marble top vanity. So it's all just like infusing the elements that I love. The colors are very soothing, but they're still very, very modern and very luxe. Something that we've done as part of the design of the house is to get our kids involved in the design. So each of their rooms has their own personality. Harley's room, her big girl room, we like to call it, she actually inspired the design of it. We were at the flea market together. She is a big time thrifter like me, and she found these really beautiful vintage silk lanterns and said, I want to have these hanging in my room. And then from there, she definitely wanted a pink room. She was 4 years old at the time, so pink was a very big color. And then of course, unicorns are an important part of it, but it was really about creating a space that was very much her, but elevated. I'm gonna say here, I didn't want to buy bed sheets that were covered with Elsa or Belle or Cinderella. So we kind of talked through it, but she really had a creative vision. With Violet's nursery, I found these beautiful silk hand-printed screens at an antique center, and it immediately matched this beautiful rug. If you've been following me for a long time, I bought this beautiful rug for our primary bedroom. And this is the one time I did not measure, and it was way too small for the space. So it became kind of the central focus of the nursery when I was designing it for Violet. And then when I saw this set of 3 beautiful silk prints, I had to buy them. And then I just pulled in all of the other layers. There's a lot of flowers. There's a lot of pretty abstract prints happening throughout her room, and of course everything else that I sourced for the nursery was vintage from the flea market. Same with Harley. One of my favorite spaces in our house is definitely the backyard. It's the deck and the patio. We don't have a traditional yard, but our outdoor area is really huge. It's probably as large of a footprint as our house, and we spend a lot of time here. I love sitting here, and on a nice day like today, I will work on my computer. The kids will play outside. I can enjoy my flowers and the garden. The dog can do his thing. When we bought this house, the deck was being held up by overgrown ivy, if you can imagine it, and we disassembled it, and my husband actually rebuilt this with his 2 bare hands, and very, very proud of it. One of the hobbies I picked up during the pandemic is gardening, and any usable garden space that we have, I have transformed into either a sustainable native garden with a lot of beautiful Southern California plants and florals. I have a poppy garden, plus I have areas that I have vegetable and fruit gardens where we grow our own tomatoes, strawberries, herbs, and lettuce. Kind of a crunchy hippie that way, proud to say it, but it's been a really great way to entertain the kids, and it's something that we love to do together as a family, and like growing your own food is actually pretty cool. So yes, you will find me gardening out here at least twice a week. It's like a way for me to feel zen and just like connect with the earth. I don't know, maybe that's because I'm a Capricorn and I need to connect with the earth. I'm an earth sign. I don't know, those of you who are into horoscopes, let me know if that's true. But I absolutely love that I was able to find this really great hobby, because it really, really helps me just, again, like clear my mind. And in addition to thrifting, gardening is my therapy. I hope you enjoyed today's home tour. If you happen to be an editor at Architectural Digest, call me. Happy to do another home tour. I just wanted to give you kind of a quick overview of our house. If there's certain areas of our home that you want me to do a deep dive, please let me know in the comments below. I'm also going to link to a post on my website that shows you before and after photos of our entire home renovation, so you could really, really do a deep dive into what it looked like when we bought the house, and over the years what projects we've taken on to revive it. A lot of it has been a DIY, and you'll see that there's been a lot of different iterations of our house, but I love it, and thanks for stopping by. I'll see you next Friday at 8 a.m. Bye!